All right, so for today, let's get rid of what I don't need up here. We'll get into that in just a bit. If you do plug in your USB, I'm going to go ahead and plug mine in as well. I'm going to minimize this. Remember, the yellow button at the top left-hand corner of your screen allows you to minimize something down to the dock. And if you plugged in your USB, the icon usually looks like this. Yours may be a different color or be named differently than mine, but it acts just like a regular folder. You can double-click on it and open it up and see all the things that are inside of it as well. So when you create documents and you want to be sure that they're saved, make sure that you drag whatever folder that you have onto this the USB drive. If you hold it there long enough, it'll automatically open up, and you can drop it in to that one as well. All right. Remember to close anything out, you can always hit the red X, and I'll close it out from there. I'm going to go back down to my dock, and if you log into today's Moodle exercise, you can scroll down. You can see that I was able to upload last week's lesson, so that worked out really well. So if you missed anything, you can look at it. For today, however, you're going to look at the project type corrections. This is going to be today's project that you'll download everything from. Also today, you can download the notes for InDesign. I've got 3 different PDFs that you can download and open up. When you do click on them, it'll ask you, how do you want to save it? You can open it up with Adobe Reader, or you can just save the file. I've already done it, so I'm going to go ahead and hit cancel. I've got them in there's my downloads folder. Remember, any of the folders that you download will go to your downloads folder, and you can click on the open to open up the folder itself. And so here's InDesign Notes 1, Notes 2, and Notes 3. When you open these up, these will go over just about everything that we're going to go over for InDesign, not just for today, but for coming lessons. So you can be able to look over these and get an idea of what they look like. I'll ask that you not print them off in here, because next week I'll see if I can actually print them off for you so you can have a hard copy of these to go forward with that. So you can download these and look at them. Don't go ahead and print them off unless you want to print them off on your own computer. One thing you can print off for today is the type corrections exercise information. Let's click on that, and I'll just say OK. And that's what this document is. This is going to be our exercise for today. It'll be due at the end of class. It's relatively simple. I'm going to show you how to set up a document and work with the text tool to create text and to be able to edit it. And this is all the instructions that we'll follow from there. So I'm actually going to move this over to the side. Remember, if you want to make anything smaller, you can always click on the bottom right hand side and drag it in, and it'll make it smaller and out of your way as well. And we also have a homework assignment that I'll get to towards the end of class that you'll work on over the weekend. Y'all all remember that next week is Martin Luther King Day, so no classes on Monday. So y'all don't come in on Monday. I won't be here. But we'll jump in from here. So let's go back into InDesign. Remember, InDesign is your purple icon. Click it once and open it up. What do y'all remember about InDesign? What is InDesign used for?
Make books or
Yeah, multiple page documents, exactly. Books, newsletters, magazines, all different types of stuff is what InDesign is used for. So when you open up InDesign, yours may look a lot like mine. To create a new document, you can click on this icon called New Document, and it will bring up the New Document dialog box. Some of the first things that you ever need to do when you work in a graphic design software is to set up the size of the document that you're working in. For today, if we follow our instructions, I'm going to pull them up so we can view along with it. You're going to create a new document that's going to be letter size. Letter size is one of those industry standards. It's a regular piece of paper that's 8.5 inches wide and 11 inches tall. And it's going to have 1/2 inch margins on all the sides. So the first thing we're going to do, the number of pages we're going to work on, it's just going to be a 1-page document. Don't worry about the facing pages or everything. We're going to keep that the same, but here's our page size. I've got letter set up for right here. If you ever needed to type in a specific size document, so if you wanted something like a brochure or a card, you can type in a specific size in these fields as well. And you can adjust the orientation, whether you want it portrait, up and down, or landscape right here as well. We're not going to worry with columns for today, but here's where we can set up our margins. Remember, the margins are the inside edges of your document that you want to set up. Right now, hey, just by chance, I've already got them set to 1/2 inch on all sides. Let me show you what happens if you want to change it up. I'm going to type in, let's say I wanted 1/4 of an inch. So I'm going to type in 0.25. When I click on this next one, it'll automatically put 1/4 of an inch in the bottom and the inside and outside edges of each of the page. The reason why it did that automatically is because of this icon in the center. They're all linked together. A lot of people want to quickly type it in, but if you wanted to have different margins set up, you can click this icon. Now I can type in different sizes. So let's say I wanted my top and bottom to have 2 inches and my bottom to have, say, 5 inches. And I can type in whatever I want and they won't all automatically fill in with the rest of themselves. That makes sense? Alright. In my case, I want 1/2 inch on all the sides. So I'm going to link that up, type in 0.5, and just go ahead and go with that. We're not going to worry about the bleed. Remember that bleed is the extra edge on the outside. Since we're not going to set this up, everything's just going to be printed on the inside. And we're going to say OK for this. And this is going to bring up our new document that we're going to work on. Anything that you create, if you want it to print, make sure that it's inside of this document area. Now you can create things and put them on the outside. This is your artboard area, but your document is where anything can be created and printed out. Printed out. And I'll go through kind of what that means when we start creating things. Remember, all of our tools that we'll ever use are usually on the right-hand side, and you can move your little toolbox around if you needed to. The options that we're going to work with, this is our control panel. I usually call it the tool options, are going to be found up here. And we've got a bunch of palettes that someone's opened and moved around off to this side. Here's another good tip. If you do open up InDesign and you see that someone's opened up a bunch of palettes and things have been moved around and you just want to reset it back to default, here's how you can reset your workspace. If you'll go up to Window, go down to Workspace, and you can see, whoop, here's some preset workspace. By default, we're going to work in Essentials. These are just the essential tools that you'll be working with. And here's Reset Essentials. It'll flash for a little bit and it'll clean up everything. It'll put everything back in its right place to work with. Everything cool with that? Alright. So we've created our new document. You'll notice that there's a pink line going along all the edges. That's your margins that we set up. And there's 1/2 inch between the top, bottom, left, and right edges of it that we're working through. So what we're going to do for this document, I'm going to minimize this and kind of give me some room so I can look back and forth, is we're going to start typing out different text, and this is the text that I want you to type out on this particular document. Each one is going to have a different paragraph, and we're going to format that text based on what it says in the document. So for instance, you're going to type this out, set this type to be centered at the top of the page using a particular font, in this case Euro Style. The size of it is going to be 20 points. It's going to have 18-point leading. I'll tell you what leading means. And we're going to learn how to change up the color of the box and the color of the text by itself. Now InDesign doesn't work the way Microsoft Word does. When you open up Microsoft Word, you can just grab your typing tool and be able to click and just type wherever you want to type on it. In InDesign, you actually have to tell it where you want type to go. You have to create what's called a text box. So this is how you can create a text box. If I was just to choose my type tool, and the type tool is the one with the T, and I was to click once and start typing, nothing's going to happen. I'm going to choose my type tool again. To create a text box, you click and drag, and it'll start creating a rectangle, and you'll see at the very top corner of this rectangle you have your blinking cursor. Anything that you type can now be typed within this text box and formatted. It'll work just like a regular word processor that you may be used to. Also, with your type tool, you can highlight your text, go in and change it. You can go in and edit it just like you would or any other regular typing tool that you have as well. Another good tool to work with along with your type tool is your move tool. So you've created a typed box. If you wanted to move this around, the move tool is the black arrow usually located at the very top of your toolbox. This tool, once you click it, will allow you to click on the type box and move it around and place the text exactly where you want it to be. So this is kind of the big thing to remember about. In InDesign, you got to tell you exactly where you want that text to be, and you can move it and place it wherever you want. Also, you'll notice that there's some little dots at the corners and the edges of the text box that you created. These are called your bounding box. If you'll hover your mouse over any of these points, you can click and drag and adjust the size of the box that you're typing in. Watch what happens if I move my box closer to the words themselves. They'll start to disappear. The reason why is because there's not enough room to hold the text and the width of the box as well. I'm going to grab my type tool. Let me add some more text in there as well. I'm going to start adding spaces. And now notice that when I type, everything stays well within, and I'm sorry for the dummy text, but I can't type anything that fast. Everything stays well within that particular type tool. So this is kind of the first fundamental thing. You use your type tool to create a type box, to type in it. Use your arrow, black arrow, selection tool to move things around and to change the size of that type box as well. You can get it closer and closer. Now if you do make it too small, say I've got way too small, nothing's going to be seen, you'll also notice there's a red box usually located at the bottom right hand side of the type box. That red box kind of indicates that there's more type than can fit in your text box. So you either need to make the type smaller or make the text box bigger. In this case we'll make it a lot bigger just to work with. Any questions so far? I don't want to go too fast. If anybody does need me to repeat, I don't mind doing that. Let's see, so I'm going to move this all the way until it'll snap to my margins that I have. I'm going to make it slightly bigger. I'm going to type out that first line that we need to type in so I can see it. I set this type to be centered, so I'm going to choose my type tool. I'm going to go ahead and just highlight this. I'm going to type right over it. Y'all bear with me as I type this first sentence. So set this type to be centered on the top of the page using the font style, 20 point size with 18 point leading. The box color is light green and the text color is dark blue. Alright, so that's the basics of typing out a sentence and creating something. Now let me show you how to format the text once you've typed something in InDesign. With it typed out, you want to highlight the text that you've just set. You want to select it to affect it. That's kind of the mantra of any graphic design software. You got to select it to affect it. So with it highlighted, with it selected, the first thing I see I need to do is I need to center the type on the top of the page in the font Euro style. Right now, if I was to continue typing, you'll notice all of it is right aligned. Everything is aligned to the right side of my page. If I hit my return, it's always going to go, not to the right, to the left side of the page. If I was to highlight it, however, and I wanted to adjust the alignment, if you look at the very top center of your control panel, this is where your alignment is. Right now it's set to align left, so here would be align center. With one click, all the text that I had highlighted is now centered. And there's other types of alignment, so if I did want it aligned right, I can do it there. You can also do justified, where it's all evenly spaced out, and there's not enough text here to do a justification. But I'm just going to keep it at centered the way it should be. But this is where you can quickly find the alignment for your text. The second thing I need to do is I need to change the font to Euro style. So let me highlight this again. To change up the font that you'll be working in, it's also up in your control panel to the far left-hand side. This first box up here lists every font that's loaded onto your computer. So I'm going to hit the up and down arrow, and it'll give me a drop-down menu of all of our fonts, and you can also see a quick sample of what that font would look like. If there is an arrow pointed out to it, it'll also have some different types of formatting for that one. So in this case, you can get an italic, you can get it to be semi-bold, bold. Let's see, this one also has a regular and a bold. If it doesn't have an arrow, then what you see is what you get. So let's find Euro style. I'm going to scroll up. Let's see, keep going. Oh, there it is. Euro style. Notice that this one is just regular, so I'm going to choose Euro style regular. And now the font that I've chosen has been changed for what I typed out. The next thing is to adjust the size of it, so I need it to be at 20 points. Most, if you haven't figured it out already, most type that you set is measured not in inches or millimeters, but in sizes called point size. So when 20 points is usually a little bit larger than the traditional 12-point type that you're used to typing in. To find the to find the point size, it's located right next to your font that you're using on the upper left-hand side. Right now it's set to 12. You can either hit the up and down arrow to dial it up, or you can just highlight it and type in the number that you want. We'll type in 20. When I hit return, it'll make it this much bigger, a lot easier to see. So right here is where you would set your point size for the type that you want to set it in as well. The next thing I want to do is to set what's called the leading of my document. Leading kind of dates back to the old school way of setting up type. Let me highlight this and show you. Leading refers to the distance between one line of type and the next line of type. So think back when type used to have to be hand set, and they would actually put it up on a printing press, and everything had to be one character at a time set into a big frame. Once you created a line of type, if you wanted to put more distance between one line and the next one, they would literally put a strip of lead between one line and the next one. So leading is where we get the distance between one line of type and the next one. To change up the leading, it's right below the font size. You can kind of get an idea of the icon. You can see the little A on top of the other one. By default, I'm going to hit the up and down arrow and show you what it's set to. Usually it's set to auto. So whatever auto means whatever size that you have, it'll automatically adjust the leading to. I'm going to set it to 18 point. Right now it's set to 24. Let's see what happens. Watch the type as I click on 18. It moved closer together. That's because I've adjusted the leading. I've made it slightly smaller. If I was to make it even smaller, let's bring it down to something ridiculous like 3 point. You can see the distance between one line and the next line is drastically different. If I was to set it to something really big, like I'm going to highlight it and type in 60 point, hit return. Now it's so big, the distance between one line and another one doesn't even fit into my text box. So this is a great way, instead of having to hit double space, if you were, say, typing a research paper and you wanted it to be double spaced, instead of hitting return twice, if I was to just hit return again, let's see, say right here, and start typing, everything will be typed out in 18 point. For some reason, I know why I didn't have that selected. Let's go back up here and do this one. If I was to hit return now and start typing, it'll give me the same distance between those two different lines as it was with the rest of them. Remember, you got to be able to select your type to be able to affect it, and I didn't have that previous type selected. Let's change it back to 18 point. So here's your leading, 18 point, hit return. So that's the way it should be for this one. Any questions so far? All this is very, very basic, very simple. Now I'm going to get into something a little more complicated. When you deal with color, there's two things that you need to remember. There's the color of the font that you're typing out, then there's the color of the box that's shaded in. Whenever you have your type tool and you've got type selected, look down at the very bottom of your toolbox. Notice there's a little tiny T inside of it. If you were to click on this T, or double click, let's double click it, it'll bring up a color picker. Because there's a T, this is going to adjust the color of the type that you're typing in. And I want this one to be a light green. So here's the green. We'll choose it. First of all, click in the large square to choose the hue that you want, then adjust the lightness of it. Let's get it up a little bit lighter. Sometimes it's a little difficult to find it. I'll choose it from there. You can see the color that you chose based on what it was before. So in this case, it went from black, we're changing it to green. I'm going to say OK. And when I do that, I've got it highlight, and I choose it. Now my text color has been changed to green by itself. So be sure it's highlighted with your type tool. Double click on the T, and you can also change up from here. I'm going to hit cancel. Another place you can quickly change and find your whatever color that you're working with, if you look up at the very top in the center, here's also the small t, and it's indicating the fill color for the type that you're working with. If you'll hit the arrow, This will give you some predefined swatches that you can quickly choose from. So notice that not every color is on here, but if you wanted to quickly choose, say, the color red or this particular shade of green, you can click on it, and it'll also change up that green color within there as well. So there's two places you can find it. First one's up here, next one is down here. In order to change the color of the text box itself, right now it's set to transparent, or you can see the white of the paper behind it. We'll need to change our tool from the text tool to the move tool, the selection tool. With it selected, now look at the little color swatch down here. It doesn't have the T inside of it. This means it's only going to change up the color of the object, the box that it's working in. If you were to double click on it, let's see, I need to change, oh, how come y'all didn't notice this? The box color should be light green and the text color should be dark blue. Just for today, I'm going to reverse it out. We're going to let the text color be green. I'm going to make this box color be dark blue. I'm going to choose, let's say, a dark blue. That one looks pretty good. I'll say OK. And this will change the color of the text box that you're now working in as well. Remember, if you want to erase anything, let's choose our text tool, highlight it, and erase it away from there. What you're going to do is, for each one of these, I want to give you practice creating text and modifying the different types of text as well while working in InDesign, because it is a little different than what you may be used to. So you're going to have to create several different text boxes. I'm going to make this one a little smaller, and each one of these is going to fit inside of the box that you created. As soon as you create them, I would make sure to make your text box a little bit smaller to give you enough space for the next text box that you're going to create as well. So let's choose our text tool, click and drag, make a new text box, and then type out the text from here. Got a surprise for y'all. We'll make it even simpler for you. If you'll go back to our Moodle page, another thing you can download is the type corrections text. If you'll click on it, it'll open up in a program called Text Edit. Text Edit is just a very simple, no-bones text editing software on the Apple. So I'm going to say OK, and this is what it looks like. Rather than you having to type out all of the text, I'm going to let you just highlight it in Text Edit. We're going to copy it by going to Edit, choose Copy. Then you can click back over here onto InDesign, and you can paste it in there by going to Edit and Paste. So now you don't have to type it out. All you have to do is copy and paste it, and it works just for there. Save you all a little bit of time to work on it. So now I can set to actually setting up the different types of text for each different one as well. Let me show you one more thing to because it's down here on these next couple of different paragraphs. For this one, you're going to set up a text box. You're going to make it dark brown, and some of the words I want you to set it to be bold. Some of the words are going to be underlined, and some are going to be in all caps and strike through. And then here's the formatting. So you're going to use the font Arial. You're going to set up to 14 point at 22 point leading. Here's where you can choose bolding, underline. We want all caps and strike through. Let's say, let me go back to my text document that I had. Remember, I was using Text Edit, so if I wanted to quickly jump to another document, I'm going to go down to my doc. Here's the icon for Text Edit. I brought it up here. I believe it's this one. So I'm going to highlight it, edit, and copy. Also, notice that in the drop-down menu, some of these have little funny characters with usually a number or a letter associated with them. These are your keyboard shortcuts. The more you can remember these, the faster they'll work. If you ever see this little clover-looking icon, this is called the command icon. You can find this clover next to your spacebar on your keyboard. If you'll hit Command and C, that'll copy your text. So Command C makes a copy. I'll just paste it into this one. So what's the keyboard shortcut to paste? Command V. So I'm going to hit Command and V, and notice that it's now pasted into there. So that's Command C, copy, Command V to paste. Same way as on Windows as well, if you're used to using those. You probably use Control or Option on Windows. So let me show you how to make something bold. Let's see, where's the word? So I want this word right here to be bold. I've got it highlighted. and only that word highlighted. Since I'm working in the font, let's see, what was it, Arial? I'm going to change this. I'll show you another quick tip. If you wanted to quickly jump to a particular font, rather than having to scroll through and trying to find it, if you'll place your cursor at the very beginning of the font menu, choice menu, and start typing the name of the font, so A-R-I, notice that it automatically fills in Arial. I can hit return, and it will choose Arial from there. So that's just a quick way of selecting fonts. Arial has a couple of different versions to it, so here's regular, there's bold. So that's how you can easily bold up a document or a font once it's there. If you needed to underline something, so I want this word to be underlined, notice there are some small icons next to the size that you're working with. One of those icons at the far right hand side of it is your underline icon. With it clicked, your word now is underlined that you're working in. If you want words to be all caps, so I want these two words to be all caps, another icon to click is this one, the first one of the group. And so everything that you type out now will be in all caps. Even if I was to add on in lowercase, it would be all caps with that way. And the final one is strike through. Strike through is just going to put a line between it. And if you didn't notice it, here's the strike through icon from there. Some of the other ones that allow you to format, you can add superscript. So if you were, say, typing out an equation and you needed something to be small and above the type line that you're typing, this is what you would use for superscript. Same way for subscript. Sometimes in chemistry you need to type something a little bit smaller, or you need to have a little footnote. And small caps allows everything to be typed in all caps, but if it's a lowercase, the lowercase letters are slightly smaller versions of the uppercase. Does that make sense? So that's what small caps allows you to do as well. And you'll be able to format each one through there.
The right side of my page, does that just mean like a line to the right? When you say like this bottom part, so that's just a paragraph on the right side of my page?
Yeah, you want it to be aligned right. So if I was to highlight it, I can choose my alignment and choose the right that way as well. Good question. Very good. Y'all think y'all can handle this? Like I said, we're going to ease into the waters of using the different types of software. Next week, let me tell you all about your homework assignment. We're going to do something a little more complicated. We're going to create your own resume. And so how many of y'all have a resume or have ever made a resume before? Okay, y'all are ahead of the game. Fantastic. You're going to create a resume, and we're going to do it on InDesign. Now notice on this I'm saying next week on Monday, and on Monday we're going to do this. Well, I typed this before I realized it was Martin Luther King. So actually next Wednesday is when we're going to do this. But over the weekend, if you don't have a resume or if you don't have it updated, I want you to go ahead and start doing your research on what goes into a resume. Some of the things that we're going to create and put into it are, of course, your contact information. Let me know an updated education experience. You can do your skill set. So if you're looking for a graphic design position, you can maybe put your own graphic design skills. If you're interested in applying for some other position, a marketing position, a nursing position, put your own skills for that as well. An objective statement. This is whatever job you're seeking. You would write, I'm a graphic designer seeking an entry-level position. I'm a nursing student seeking a full-time position at a hospital. Something like that. I'll give you all an example next week that we'll work from. And you can see some of the other things to work through as well. Also, I've included a little YouTube video. She's a real fun graphic designer that kind of explains how you can design a resume. Are y'all's resume, would you say it's designed well, or is it just real bare bones, kind of bland looking as well? Well, this kind of, she'll talk about some different things on how you can spruce up your resume and make it look good, make it look kind of trendy, and add little things to it as well. But we're going to do that next week. For your homework, I just want to make sure that you have a resume and that you're thinking about using it as well. What I'll do is I'm going to turn your computers back over to you and let y'all work on this exercise. It's going to be due at the end of the class today. So work hard, and if you have any questions, please let me know as soon as possible. Okay? All right.